Hey everyone, welcome back to a new vlog. So today marks the first day of the reading rush. It's a week-long readathon, and there's different prompts, and different things to read and do, and I will have another video, explaining the readathon and like showing you maybe some of the books that I want to read and everything like that, but since it started today and I have already finished a book, I thought I would update you all. So, one of the reading prompts is to read a book that you have already seen the movie adaptation of. So, a little different than, the saying, read the book before you watch the movie. This is the opposite. So, it's about a movie that you've seen that maybe you had no idea was based off of a book or anything like that, and then you go back and read the book. So, that was really hard for me because I tend to read the books before I see the movies. So it took me a little while to come up with one. But then I started thinking about movies that I'd seen since I was little, or I also Googled, top 100 movies based off of books. Anyway, good way to do it. I came across Jaws. Also, another one of the prompts is to read a book with a cover that has the same color as your birthstone. So, I was born in July, so July's birthstone is ruby. So, I kind of wanted to do kind of a little fun twist. I don't know how well it's going to work, but we'll see. I wanted every book that I read to have a little bit of red in it. So, I got the audiobook for Jaws from the library. So I don't have it with me, but I can show you a picture of it. And the title is written in red. Also, it's Jaws. So there's a lot of red in it. So I thought it would be good. Anyway, so I listened to it at work today. So I am able, at the job that I have, to listen to books while I work. Sometimes I have to use my full brain capacity and then I have to shut off a book and that kind of stuff. But today, fortunately, I was able to listen to a book all day. So it was okay. So I gave it 3 stars. Now, I love Jaws the movie. Like, give me monster movies any day. I guess Jaws could be a monster movie, even though sharks are real and not like. Anyway, that's beside the point. But, I love Jaws. It's great. I love it. I've like this fascination and horror with sharks. Like, I think they're so cool, and I kind of want to be in a shark cage, but I'm also like crazy afraid of sharks. I don't know. It's weird. But I love sharks. And so Jaws is a great movie. I love it. And so when I saw that it was based off of a book, I was like, okay, that's definitely the one I'm reading. So I picked it up from the library. I got it on Overdrive and listened to all of it today. And like I said, it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. What um I feel horrible for saying this, but the movie was better. Um and I think the reason I liked the movie more than the book is because the movie concentrated on the shark and took out the drama, which I loved. Every character in the book was portrayed differently in the movie. The one person who is exactly the same was Quint, and he's crazy, and so they definitely took his character straight from the book. Like, he was very, very similar. Chief Brody was kind of similar. He grew up in Amity, and his wife like grew up in the Hamptons from the book. And so she came from a very affluent family. He came from a fairly poor one, and she is starting to feel that she is missing that part. She's starting to think that if she would have stayed in the Hamptons and married someone with money, then maybe she wouldn't feel the way she does right now. So she, like, ends up having an affair, which is really annoying. And anyway, so there was more drama in the book. And so, yes, I did like the movie more than the book. But the book was fine. I gave it 3 stars. The shark parts were great and actually very similar to the movie. So, one book done. And the next book I started is also another audiobook. I find I'm working full time, so I find that if I always have an audiobook going, it helps me read a lot more, and I kind of would like to read all 7 books for this readathon. I don't know how well that's gonna go, but I would like to try. So if I have audiobooks, it just makes it easier for me. So why can't I remember the name of this book? I can't remember the name of the book. I think Slow Resurrection. I can't remember what it's called. But Barry Eisler has a couple of different series that he writes, and one of them is the John Rain series. And John Rain used to be a military man and now is essentially an assassin, like contract for hire, and his specialty is making deaths look like natural causes. So when anyone needs someone to disappear and have no questions arise, they always call John Rain, and he comes and he takes care of it. So he was in Vietnam. He was in Vietnam. Gosh, I can't remember. Man, I'm terrible at this. He was in Vietnam, I'm pretty sure. And then after that, he thought he was working for the good guys. Turns out they kind of had him do things he didn't want. These are the best kind of books that I like because it's like action thriller type stuff, but the characters have good in them, and like he is an assassin. Like he kills people for hire. So it's not like he's the greatest person in the world, but he has his own moral compass, and the people that he's killing are bad guys. I'm not saying it's right, but I like his character a lot. So this is actually the second book in the series. I think there's like 10 books in the series. Anyway, one of the prompts is to read a book that is set in a different continent than you. And John Rain is half Japanese, half American, and he lives in Tokyo. So his stories mostly take place in Tokyo. I think this one he's going to be in Brazil and Tokyo. The first book he was strictly in Tokyo. Well, I guess he went to the States for like a little bit of it. But yeah, so different continent than me. So I started that book. I think I'm probably 100 pages into it. Should have looked before I started this, but I'm 100 pages into it, and really enjoying it. Like I said, I really like this character. He's very interesting. I can't really tell you much about the book because it like kind of spoils the first book, but he is kind of dealing with the consequences of the first book, and Tokyo has no longer become safe for him. He is working for a man who is in the Tokyo, the Japanese version of the FBI, Japanese FBI, and they served in the military together, so they have this kind of tenuous relationship where they trust each other, but they are on opposite sides of the law. So he was kind of caught in the last book, and then this FBI agent essentially let him go. But John always repays his debts, so he knows that this guy could essentially like put him in jail for these people that he's killed. So he, I believe, is going to work for him or do something for him. So that's all I have right now. But yes, it's good. I was trying to find a comic graphic novel to read because of course they're shorter. And I wanted to kind of keep with my theme with red in every cover. And I actually have maybe already broken that because I'm not sure if my John Rain book has red on the cover. Anyway, I will look. It's fine. So I picked 2 out that I've been wanting to read. So I have The Sandman Overture by Neil Gaiman. It's the prequel to the Sandman series. So I would like to do that. It's actually a fairly in-depth graphic novel, so I'm not sure if it's something that I can read quickly. Like, if there's a lot of in-depth illustrations and stuff in a graphic novel, it usually takes me a little longer to read, so that might take me a little longer. I also have the complete Ant-Man, which, of course, read everywhere. So I have a complete collection, so it's actually bigger. So, I mean, I go through and I pick my biggest graphic novels. Anyway, that's beside the point. But, yeah, so I think I'm going to start with the Sandman Overture. And if I'm not really in the mood for that one, I will maybe switch to Ant-Man, or I'll read them both. I'm not sure. But I'm going to start with Sandman, and I will get back to you when I have more updates. I didn't get very far last night in Sandman. I stayed up fairly late Sunday night, so I was really tired last night. So yeah, I got I think I read the very first section. So not very far. I think I've got 10 pages in or something. This morning I listened to my John Rain book while I was getting ready, and I have 6 hours and 45 minutes left in that. I'm listening at 2 speed, 2 times speed, so I should be able to finish it today at work. I don't think there's a lot of stuff today that needs my full brain capacity, so I'm sure I can listen all day. I have a book, I'm in a book club at my local library, and the book this month is called The Silence of Us. I don't know a lot about it. I know it is about 2 kids who are deaf. That's pretty much all I know. But one of the prompts for the readathon is read a book that starts with the. So, The Silence of Us works. It also has red on the cover to continue with my theme. So I will probably start that next. It is also another audiobook. I might be doing a majority of audiobooks this time, just so I can actually hopefully get through 7 books this week. So we'll see. But, yeah, I'll keep you guys updated.
Who, weren't born. They're not, humans. They came from the ground. And it's so weird.
So today at work went actually really well. I finished a book, and I actually have just an hour and 50 minutes left of another book. So today is going to be great. I'm definitely going to finish this 3rd book I'm reading today. So it'll be 3 books in 2 days, which I'm pretty proud of that. So I finished my John Rain book today. It was good. I gave it I'll probably I'll probably give it like 4 stars. Very good book, really enjoyed it. I save my 5-star reads for those books that just have that extra thing. And I have no idea if I can even explain it, but yeah. So like books that I really, really enjoy reading, I don't have any glaring things that I didn't like. They usually get 4 stars. But if it has that just extra, like I said, I can't even explain it, but it just has something extra, and I know when I read it what it is. Anyway, I know it's probably super confusing, but 4 stars, really good. One of my favorite characters died in this book, so it was sad. It was sad. I really like John Rain as a character. He is definitely morally gray. He is an assassin. He kills people, so there's that. But I think he sticks to his morals, which it's kind of interesting to think of. But he really is like a good guy deep down. And he doesn't ever kill anyone who doesn't deserve it. I know that sounds horrible, but it's true. So I really enjoyed the second book. I will definitely keep going on in the series. He's a character who is very solitary because he has lived a life in such a way that he doesn't want people to get close to him, because if people get close to him, then they can use them to get to him, and he can't handle hurting innocents. So he kind of keeps himself at arm's length between other people, and I think it's actually gonna get more so going forward because someone did the thing that he was very worried about, and they used someone to get to him, and they killed that person, and it was his good friend. So I have a feeling that he might be spiraling in this next book, and it might be quite hard for him. So we'll see about this next book, but really liked it, really enjoyed it. The current book that I'm reading, I started after I finished the John Rain book. I started another audiobook called The Silence Between Us. And that's the one that our reading my a book club that I'm in is reading for this month. So it's really good. It's about this girl who when she was 13 she became deaf, and for the last couple of years she has been going to a deaf school, and now she is going to a hearing school, and it's her first. Her family has just moved. Her brother has cystic fibrosis, so he has a lot of problems. One of the first kind of lines in the book was with a child who's it was something along the lines, I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but she talks about her brother having cystic fibrosis and saying you wouldn't think that the deaf child would be the one that was the one you had to worry about the least. So it's pretty hard on her mom and her taking care of her brother. And they've just moved to Colorado, so the higher elevation is hard on her brother's breathing. So there's been a lot kind of going on. Everyone's kind of in change. Currently, she has had to get used to a school where she used to go to school where everyone was deaf. All of the teachers were either deaf or hard of hearing, so everyone knew sign language, and she fit in very well there, and now she's going to a school where she is the only deaf person, and so it's hard for her to get used to that. She found a friend right away, which is good, though not maybe now, but she was kind of sketchy. I was never sure I trusted her, and I maybe still am not sure about that, even though I only have 2 hours left of the book, so very close to the end. Um, she seemed too good to be true, but I love good friendships in books, so I'm hoping that she is genuine. There is a boy, of course. She did took a while for her to warm up to him because she saw him as arrogant, and he made a comment, an ignorant comment one day, and it was hard for her to take, and just kind of she got really angry about it, so she kind of wrote him off right away. But he is one of the only ones in the school who has decided that he is going to learn sign language for her so he can talk to her. So he's super sweet. I'm really enjoying the book. It's not really a book that has a plot, really. It's just kind of following the lives of these kids and like learning along with them. High school's hard, especially if you are a deaf person in a hearing school. So we're following just our main character getting used to all of these things, and how she's living her life. So I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I only have about 2 hours left, and I'm going to finish it tonight. I am listening on 2 speed, so I really only have an hour left to listen to. And once I'm done with that, I will probably read some more of Sandman. I think I said this morning that I didn't get very far. So I'll go back into that and read some of that. And yeah, I will update later. So I have just finished reading The Silence Between Us, and it was so good. I was just thinking about what star rating I'd give it. You know, it might be a 5-star read. Oh man. We just had this conversation about how I read things. Or how I rate things. Okay, yeah, it might be a 5-star. Let me tell you why. First of all, the story was great. It wasn't like earth-shattering, and it wasn't prolific or profound or anything like that, but it was a great put together, well written story, and it gave me insight into what it's like for people who are deaf. And I think what put it over the top for me was actually the relationships in it. I love good friendships. I love good friendships because I'm not very like keen on those books that have like friends that are just face value, and when it comes down to important things they kind of disown you, or they're like, no, I'm not helping you with that, or I really wasn't your friend the whole time. I was just using you for some reason. um I don't like when drama is caused, or like the cause of drama in a book is because of terrible friends. Like that's not something that I love to read. So yeah, so I think what put this over the top for me into the 5-star range was because the friendships in this book are great, and they genuinely want what's best for each other and want to help them out. And she has 2 really great friends who start learning sign language for her, and like just because they genuinely like her and want to be her friend. There's no ulterior motive in it at all. And yeah, sure, there's not great people in the book, but our main character Maya is really strong, and is strong enough to know that she's totally fine with who she is. They even talk about cochlear implants, and she says a lot in here. She's like, I love that I'm deaf. She has said too that, it took her a little while to get to that point, but she's like, I don't want to change any of that. She's like, there's so many great things that have happened because I'm deaf. So she is very secure in who she is. And yeah, there's bad days, definitely. There is a scene in the book where her mom had to go a couple hours away for her job, and Maya was watching her brother, and he had a problem where he couldn't breathe, and she had to rush him to the hospital, and their interpretation services wasn't working, and so she couldn't understand anything, and she was so worried about her brother, and no one would tell her anything, and she couldn't go see him. So that was very hard for her. That was a very hard place for her to be at, and it kind of got her into a place where she was kind of second guessing what she wanted to do and if she could be okay in essentially the world, and what she was going to do in situations like this. So yeah, so I just really enjoyed it, and I think I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I've had a great reading rush so far. Finished 3 books. One of them wasn't that great. Jaws wasn't that great. I talked a little bit about that earlier. And I think a part of it is actually, it was written in the 70s, I think. And there were a lot of people thought differently in the 70s than they do now. And so there were some things that I was just kind of like, meh. But anyway, still 3 stars. I loved all the shark parts because hello, sharks. So yeah, great. I'm going to start reading more of Sandman. I am not exactly sure what other book I'm going to read. I technically need to pick a book with red on the cover to be my book that is the same color as my birthstone, which is ruby. Even though I've kind of had that going throughout all of my books, I want to pick a book that is that has red on every cover. So there's that. I'm also supposed to read a book all outside. They did talk about this. They did come up with these challenges before the pandemic hit us. So they did talk about that and how if we needed to change that out, we could. So I'm trying to think of a clever way of figuring out how to still do that. I don't have a yard that I could kind of just sit out at, and it's kind of bad around where I live, so yeah, I don't know if I really want to just spend some time outside, but I will try and come up with a way to still kind of do that. I was thinking about trying to find a book that happens all outside, so I'm reading about something that happens all outside, but I will have to do a little more research into that and try and find one of those. So I'm going to continue reading Sandman, and then I'm going to go to bed. I'm probably going to read for another hour, and then I'm going to go to bed. So I'll update tomorrow. So for the reading prompt of the first book I touch, I am going to scroll through my not started books on Audible and see which one I get. So here we go. Let's have my eyes closed, scrolling through. Let's see which one I touch. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to be reading The Insider by Craig Schaefer, which is pretty exciting because I just read the first book in the Charlie McCabe series in a reading vlog earlier this year, so I am going to read this one for the prompt of the first book I touch. So last night did not turn out as well as I'd hoped, but it's fine. It's fine. But I did finish 2 books today. 2. So, pretty proud of myself about that. So, as you saw last night, I picked for the challenge, the book You Touch first. As you saw, I just kind of scrolled through and picked a book that way. I started that today, and I finished it. So it's the second book in the Charlie McCabe series by Craig Schaefer. And I read the first book in that series earlier this year. And I liked it. It was a pretty good start to the series. I was interested in continuing on in the series. But the second book I did like a lot better. It was more intriguing. I liked the characters more. The mystery was better. It had a little surprise twist that that I had not caught on to, which was good. We get introduced to another character in this book, and I am starting to think that Craig Schaefer might bring in a magical element to the series, which is what his other books are known for. I thought this was going to be a series that is non-magical, just kind of a thriller series. But I think maybe, I'm not sure yet, but I think this new character might be a magical type of character. She's pretty mysterious, and she seems to have an effect on people that they don't really understand. So I'm thinking that maybe she might be magical in some way, but we shall see. It has been 3 days of the reading rush, and I have read 5 books. So I am going to get my 7-book goal, and maybe a few more to add on to that. So that is pretty exciting. So I finished 5 prompts. Let me see if I can remember them. So, yesterday I talked about how I was trying to figure out some way to do the read a whole book outside challenge, and trying to figure out a way of doing that. So last night I was thinking about maybe trying to find a book that takes place all outside and go from there. And I actually went through my TBR. I have a lot on my TBR just for books that I want to read. I have an ongoing list in Goodreads of stuff that I want to read. And I found Jungle Book on that list. And I was like, of course, it's in the jungle. Of course it's going to take place all outside. And I went on Overdrive to see if they had a audio version available, and they did. So I checked that out, and I started listening last night. I didn't get very far at all last night, probably half an hour maybe, but it is a short book. Like, I think the audiobook was like 4 hours or something, so quite short, 4.5 maybe, pretty short. And it was okay. I finished it this morning at work. It was fine. I wasn't really, I guess I didn't know what to expect. Well, in my head I was thinking Disney, right? Because that's what you think about when you think of like Jungle Book and all the Disney movies that are books that you haven't read, right? You think Disney right away. So that's kind of what I was thinking. I wasn't really ready for what it was. But Rudyard Kipling did short story. I mean, they were essentially short stories. So actually, within the Jungle Book, there are like 5 stories. So it's the Mowgli story that we know of as the Jungle Book. And that's the longest story in there, but it's still quite a short story. And then they have like He has probably 3 or 4 other short stories that are in that collection as well, that is within the Jungle Book. And Mowgli's story was okay. It's all the characters that we know from the animated movie. But I thought it was kind of interesting that Bagheera and Baloo, their personalities were kind of switched. Like, Baloo was the one who was quite serious about making sure that Mowgli knew the dangers of the jungle and what was coming after him, and if when Shere Khan was coming after him, and all of that kind of stuff. So that was pretty interesting for me. And Bagheera was the one who was kind of like happy-go-lucky and kind of telling Baloo to kind of chill. And so that was kind of interesting to see those characters switch from the book and the movie. But yeah, it just kind of goes through that main story, the story we know. I mean, it's a little different from the movie, but of course, that's kind of how it always is. Um, and then there were other short stories in there, and one of my favorites was actually Rikki Tikki Tavi, and which is about like a mongoose who kind of comes, a family finds him, they think he's dead, but they find out that he's still alive, so they kind of nurse him back to health, and then he stays with them and guards them from these cobras. Really just saves the day. I really liked that story a lot. It was a fun story. There was also another story in there called the oh man, the Queen's Servants or something. Ooh, I can't even remember the name. But it was all about um these animals kind of sitting around a fire talking to each other about how they herd the people around, and like they're the transportation for the people. So there were bulls and donkeys and horses and camels, and they were just kind of like, it was such a funny story because they were essentially sitting around a fire at night while their humans slept, talking about um how they are transportation for these people, and they were like making fun of each other and like doing all these things about how they were better at transportation than the other animals were. And it was really funny. Like, it took me a second to realize what was going on, but it was hilarious. They were like throwing insults back and forth at each other. It was a great little story. So I actually found that I liked the other short stories in that collection more than the Mowgli story, which was interesting. But I read that, and that was for my read a book outside. So, so to recap what I've read so far, so the first day, let me see, I have it written down. 1 second. So the first day, I read Jaws. So Jaws was for the movie you saw, that was movie you've already seen, that was based on a book that you haven't read. So so I finished that prompt with Jaws, and then the next one was, I read the John Rain book. And that takes place in a different continent than what I live in. It takes place in Tokyo. So that's what I read for that one. For the book that starts with I read The Silence Between Us, which was also my book club's book for this month. So that was nice to kind of be able to use a book that I needed to read this month, and found a prompt for that. And then I read The Insider, which is the second book Charlie in the Charlie Cape series, which again I said it's the first book you touch. So so there was that prompt, and then the Jungle Book one, which talks about I'm using that for the one that you read all outside. So I finished 5 prompts. I have 2 more. So I will let you know what I start, and I will update you guys tomorrow.